Hi everyone, welcome to Felina's Pages. Today we're talking about Now Let No Charitable Hope by Elinor Wylie. This short study guide is going to contain an author biography, a summary, and a quick line-by-line analysis. The goal is to explain simply and to help jog your memory for the exam. This is another video on the CIE English Literature GCSE curriculum for 2022. Without further ado, let's get started. Elinor Wylie was born in a family that was quite social. They had a lot of connections and her dad was a lawyer. She was trained to be a debutante and a perfect wife, but she rebelled against that fate and became famous for her many marriages and scorning the ideal of the time. She suffered from dangerously high blood pressure and migraines because of it. She published 4 volumes of poetry and also 4 books from 1921 to 1928, and she was also an editor and a reviewer for the magazines. Wylie called her poem style small, clean technique because of the short sentences and detailed images, and often her poems covered quite social themes, like dissatisfaction with life. Now Let No Charitable Hope is a poem of social struggle and acceptance as a woman, and the poet urges us to find our own happiness even in a society designed to put you down. The poem explores through images of nature that were imposed onto women her desire to find pleasure and to seek happiness and to not let any false hope cloud her judgment. If you link biography to this, the poet also points out that social privilege that was afforded to her by her father is not the only thing. Her opportunities as a woman were still limited, and she also refused a lot of hand-me-downs from her parents, so the poet is also a reflection of her individuality in life. A quick glance at the structure and you can just read the poem one more time. The poem has 3 stanzas, each one has 4 lines, and the rhyme scheme is a very rigid and steady A-B, which shows how limited the speaker feels. She cannot just write freely, she must follow the constraints, the norms of the time. The poem is an iambic tetrameter, one of the most common of forms, and so by employing it, Elinor shows her poem is universal. She's just like the other women, they face their hardships together. They are united by them. Now let no charitable hope confuse my mind with images of eagle and of antelope. I am by nature none of these. The very first line, the title of the poem, is urging us to not let charitable hope confuse our judgment. And charitable means to be given out. So what she's saying is that people think that giving hope to women is a mercy, that they're allowing women to be happy in the society that's oppressing them. However, she's urging us to not let this hope cloud our judgment because it will instead distort our purpose. It will make us seem like our life is perfect when it's not. And if we embrace it, we can instead make our own happiness. Antelopes and eagles are symbolic animals of freedom. And so what she's saying is, don't tell me to think of this. Don't tell me that I have hope because I am by nature none of these. Antelopes run wild and free, and eagles can fly away at any time from the constraints holding them. It's interesting also to note the more subtle allusions. Antelopes are considered more feminine, while an eagle is this American male ideal. So by putting them together, she's really contrasting this feminine and this male, and she's saying, do you really think the antelope and eagle are on the same level? In nature, maybe so. In nature, both are free, but in real life, in society, no. And in the way that she chooses nature, I think that this is pointed as well, like the word nature, because many people at the time used nature to justify their sexism, to justify no laws allowing women to work, etc., and to essentially say, well, you know, it's your nature to stay at home, so that's why you should be a perfect wife and not pursue anything else, to hold down her literary career as a poet. Look at the choice of the words hope, images, mind. This is all from the lexical field of imagination, and I think in this instance she is pointing out the difference between fantasy and reality. So though she wishes to be free, her mind tells her that this is her reality and that she must embrace it. And let's look at the tone for a second. So a lot of people would say that the tone is dejected, and I personally disagree with this because I think that she is taking charge of her life here. And although it may seem defeatist that she's saying that essentially, well, we have no hope as women, I think she's making it more motivational by saying that, well, we might not have hope and we might not do anything if we rebel on an individual basis, but we can embrace happiness and be happy for ourselves. And by doing so, although yes, you're not fighting against inequality, you're fighting against society telling you that this is what you're limited to, and you can make your own happiness by making yourself happy. Actually, this stanza ends with the alliteration of nature none. Also, it strongly ends the stanza and says that, well, I am my own self and I will not let nature take me as anything else. I am just just myself, and I know that I am myself, so don't tell me otherwise, and don't give me false lies either. I was being human born alone. I am being woman hard beset. I live by squeezing from a stone, what little nourishment I get. Notice how she says she was being human and she is a woman, so I am a woman. Her identity as a woman is her present self. It's the identity that takes charge of her current life, and I think as part of personal response and like allusions to context and to other things, you could link it back to Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex. I have a video on part 1, so you can watch that to help you, but it is very similar to Simone de Beauvoir's later idea of a woman becomes a woman. She is not born a woman. It is the societal expectations and like social norms and gender norms that make her a woman. She shows that she was born alone. It's part of being human. She knows the feeling of solitude and independence, and as a woman she is hard beset. She has difficulty in her life, and the speaker continues to assert. So she says I am, she's confident, she's telling us who she is, defining herself on her own terms, and then she's showing her power and calm confidence within. And the words switch from dreams to hardship. It's a shift, a lexical field shift. She emphasizes with the diction the plosive B's, the guttural G's, the clipped rhyme of beset and get, and I think this is why the tone for me sounds so assertive, because even with the harshness of these sounds, even with pointing out that, well, yes, my life is hard, she never loses control of her rhythm. It still continues in a A-B, in iambic tetrameter, and she really makes it clear that she can control herself, and she has the control to take power over her own emotions, and that society can't control the way she reacts to external factors. And the parallelism of I was being human and I am being woman establishes her self-control, even as she lives by squeezing from a stone what little nourishment I get. Although a stone doesn't actually provide nourishment in life, she makes it so. She's saying that, look, this requires effort on her part, and she shows that even though she's treated as inferior, she has this inner sense of power. She has this ability to wring from the stone stuff that others can't. And although it may seem that she's not doing much, she is in fact doing a lot because she's exerting all this effort. And yes, it's not recognized, but she feeds herself. She makes her own nourishment. She takes control of her own life. In masks outrageous and austere, the years go by in single file, but none has merited my fear, and none has quite escaped my smile. So we have another example of vivid imagery in the stanza. We have the masks outrageous and austere. The masks are the people going by her, and you can't really distinguish individual features because all of these people are essentially people that make up society. She's saying that it's outrageous, that it's ridiculous. Like, how can you make us exert so much effort for a little recognition and still treat us as inferior? And the years go by in single file, one after another. She passes her life with just a series of images, and this image of like years going by one by one, of just time passing by her, and she's a passive absorber, and even the time is personified, but she's not treated as an actual valuable human person. Another image of constraints, because of course a line represents the order and she can't break out of the line. She must take part and she must go along with it. However, there's a volta in this final stanza with the third line beginning, but even with all this societal expectation, this is her main message, that she can handle this hardship and she can still be happy. Again, we have parallelism with the but none and none. None of these years has merited my fear. Nothing deserves my panic of dying and not breaking out of societal expectation. While yes, life is incredibly hard, she can handle whatever comes her way with a smile on her face and a sense of inner resistance. In other words, what doesn't kill her makes her stronger. She's not bound by conformity. And I think this would be great to link back to the poet's own life of ignoring what society expects and continuing with her string of several marriages and several affairs. And the poem ultimately ends with a positive note, and so this is why I think the tone is like assertive and more happy and motivational to oneself and to other women rather than dejected. Alright, that concludes the video. Today was a bit of a shorter poem, so a shorter video as well, but I did comment a bit on the dictionary. I did comment a bit on the diction and the imagery, and I hope I explained everything clearly. If the video helped, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. All of this would really help me and make me happy. So yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, and see you next week.